Welcome back to the Talkin podcast brought to you by the folks at Chief of Staff KC. This week we're joined by President and co-founder of Rieger Co and co-host of the Lemme Be Brief Podcast, Andy Rieger. Welcome back to the Let It Fly studio, Andy. Appreciate you always making some time to hang out. You have any big holiday plans coming up?
Big holiday plans. This year, the best thing about COVID is there are no holiday plans. So you actually get to relax, chill, be by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. Well, the Chiefs won another close game against the Saints, 32-29 on Sunday, moving to an 8-0 record on the road and 13-1 on the year. With the Steelers lost last night as well, all we need to do is win against the Falcons to lock up that number 1 seed and potentially rest our starters for Week 17. But as we chop it up, we'll cover our opinions of the Saints game, prep for the final weekend, the week of fantasy, and then preview our Week 16 matchup against the Falcons at home this weekend. But first, we're bringing you our positions of the week, brought to you by Chief of Staff KC, your local trusted talent scouts. We're a recruiting firm based in Brookside, and we'll bring you the best accounting and finance, HR, admin, marketing, sales, and operations talent Kansas City has to offer. Yep. So with that being said, Bryce, what do you got for us this week?
Yeah, so we just had an exciting one open up this week. It's, I guess, as far as title goes, it's pretty fluid. Could be anywhere between like a staff accountant to senior accountant, years of experience, anywhere between like 2 to, they look as high as like 20, essentially. But as far as what you'd be doing on a day-to-day basis, I mean, it's pretty standard. Putting together the financial statements, doing the ARAP, account reconciliations, and a little bit of collections. But it's with an exciting, innovative manufacturing company. So they're doing a lot of cool things right now. But if that sounds like something you might be interested in, definitely give me a shout.
I also forgot to mention and introduce Bryce. Apologize. Yeah, my bad. Lucas is actually out, again, socially distancing for the holidays coming up. Mm-hmm. I believe his girlfriend's sister has a little baby, so they want to be careful. But appreciate you making some time to be with us, Bryce.
To the big leagues.
There we go. And so for the HR Ops and Sales division, we have a senior recruiter position available at the moment. It's out in Lenexa. You need 2 to 3 years of high volume recruiting experience, and it pays around like $75 to $85K. So pretty lucrative recruiting position. If that sounds like you, or if you know someone, reach out to us.
Is this like an oxymoron, like a recruiter?
Yeah,
recruiter.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? But those are your positions brought to you by Chief of Staff KC. Bryce, take us away, man.
Yeah, so now it's time to talk some shop. Andy, you're pretty familiar with the studio, but what's it feel like to be on the other side of the table?
It's bizarre. There's only one microphone on this side, so I would say overall this is a whole new experience. I'm looking at a different wall. I got the production behind my back, so
the microphone has a cord this time too.
Yeah, I'm not in control.
We got double the time too, so it's gonna feel like a long day.
Well, we both know your story pretty well. And I know you've shared a million times. I think we both heard it when we went out to Jay Rieger for a networking event. So we won't jump too much into that. But your podcast, Let Me Be Brief. I guess talk to us about that. How did the idea come about? And kind of give us the format of the show. Well,
Kansas City has one of the most interesting, I always call him the best, worst salesman you've ever met in your life. His name's Scott Havens. He is a partner at an insurance brokerage here in town, Hub International, and he is their top salesman who literally doesn't ever sell. You ask him for insurance needs and he passes you off, but everybody calls him. So Scott really put this group together and said, I think we could do a podcast and throw Matt Basinger, who runs Swellspark, and myself as the hosts. And we all sort of just talked about ideas with the Let It Fly guys. And we came up with this structure of just super short podcasts that everybody can listen to when they are on their when the fire truck just went by. That everyone can really listen to on their drive to work without having to look at it and then make that determination of, another hour and a half podcast. Right. I'm gonna have to break this up in 6 days. So just doing that sort of format, making it short, and just getting super interesting people that, you bring them in, and some of these people have never done podcasts before as C-levels of big companies here in Kansas City, and others have done a lot. And the people that have done a lot of podcasts, I'll never forget, one of our first guests was Peter Maluk of Creative Planning, and we talked about a couple podcasts he had done recently where they were literally like hour and 15-minute podcasts, and ours was like 13 minutes.
Yeah.
And he said he just loved it because it was just something that was so fast and so quick and concise, and he had to like almost create an elevator pitch of a podcast so that he could ensure he got in everything that he felt the listeners really needed to hear.
Right.
And it was just a really good way for people to not have to spend their entire day doing something that is not really their productive side of life.
Yeah.
True.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm sure when you're asking people of that level to make some time, that they can spare 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that works out pretty well. But yeah, I highly recommend the show. I actually binge listen to it all the time. It's pretty easy to knock out a couple episodes here or there. But outside of that, Andy, one thing that I've always admired about you is your commitment to not only rebuilding and building up the East Bottoms, where your distillery is located, but your overall commitment to the small business community in Kansas City. But recently, I saw an article where you took that to the next level about lobbying Congress for kind of tweaking the SBA lending program. So now that Congress actually just passed their newest stimulus package, can you kind of tell us a little bit more about what you were pitching for and then how that all kind of shook out?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I was really going for was ensuring that there's a bigger guarantee from the SBA on SBA format loans so that banks have more comfortability with small businesses being able to receive capital to prevent the case of the banks saying it's too risky.
Right.
What if you go out? And so from that standpoint, they were able to raise it to not the full way 100%, but they raised it to 90%.
Mm-hmm.
And what that essentially does is that just guarantees that the bank still has to underwrite it. You still have to have assets. You still have to have personal guarantees. And so when you think about that, then the rest of the 90% can be covered by the SBA in the event of just a total catastrophe. Right. So are you really going to lose 10%? Probably not. And so when you think about it, there really shouldn't be an excuse from lending institutions to prevent small businesses from either being able to survive with capital that they have to pay back or even utilize it to be a contrarian and grow right now. And I would say that's going to be the biggest thing is a lot of small businesses are going to want to grow right now, and they're the ones that are going to help pull us out of the what's essentially going to be a recession coming out and really trying to move us forward and get us back to normal.
Yeah. So I guess, do you have any advice for entrepreneurs or small business owners right now trying to navigate this whole, I guess, new SBA or PPPs that are coming out as well?
Yeah, I mean, the PPP, the way that it was structured and written, essentially it just, the measuring stick for the second round is you have comparable quarters year over year, 2020 to 2019. And as long as one quarter is down 25% in revenue over 2019, then you have the ability to apply.
Okay.
If you're a restaurant industry, then you have a different multiplier that's a little bit higher than other industries. But it's still the same general calculations, but they did add additional features that can go towards the forgiveness. It sort of seems as if they're not really trying to structure these as loans, they're trying to structure them as capital infusions or grants, more or less. But one of the biggest things from a tax standpoint is they actually eliminated the Treasury's ruling or incorrect ruling of what wasn't intended. And so all of the loan forgiveness is not taxable, but all of the expenditures that you incur during that period are tax deductible. So it's a really good win for small businesses in general and being able to, get the most out of the worst situation and trying to survive. But, the PPP and this bill that was passed, it's not going to help businesses survive long term.
Right.
It's literally just to get them along to the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
So any business that's out there thinking that that's going to help save them, make sure that you're really evaluating it, because if you don't think you're going to survive, it's probably not a good idea to start taking capital that in the event of default or bankruptcy or going out of business and you break some covenant in the bill that was passed, then perhaps, you could be liable for it.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that explanation, and anyone listening, definitely take that advice here moving forward. But we connected back in April as I was doing my essentially speaking series, which again, I always appreciate you making some time. We talked about your production shift at J. Rieger from alcohol to hand sanitizer. And so now that we're at the end of 2020 and everything looks to be moving in the right direction, what's your focus for J. Rieger moving forward? Are you guys, have you shifted 100% back to alcohol? Will you continue to make the remedy? What are your goals here moving forward?
Yeah, no, I mean, the hand sanitizer really was just a temporary thing when the market needed it. So do we still have some available? Yeah, absolutely. But that's not our focus. That's not what we're trying to put our brand on going forward.
Right.
So we never actually stopped making whiskey. And that was sort of the misnomer that everyone just assumed that we completely shifted. But the thing about whiskey is it takes years and years and years to age. So if you stop producing it today, then 6 years from now, you kick yourself for saying, why did we stop making it? Now we don't have any.
Right.
So it's not an immediate return type situation like most inventory is with most companies. So being able to stick to that and then really trying to ensure that that program doesn't get hurt ever was always the primary focus of what we do. But, you know, as we've gone on in the pandemic and we've learned how to navigate welcoming people back into our facility, and the biggest thing that we're not able to do that's normal right now is just general numbers, but really it's for our distribution team. They're not able to travel, they're not doing account visits, they're not doing work with distributors. And so you just sort of have this no man's land that everybody is in right now, and just really eager to get back to it. But what it's allowed us to do, and what I hope most businesses have been allowed to do during this time, is improve. And just focus on the things that you otherwise have always had on the checklist of things that you need to focus on, but you don't have the time to do it. And so now you actually have the time to do it. It's sort of forcing everybody to figure it out. And so whether it's our retail team figuring out what works, what doesn't, some new things that we'll be able to add in the future, improve on, grow, so that when we get back to normal, we have even additional streams of revenue that we didn't have before. Our operations are improved even further and more efficient. And on the distribution side, we are growing and are in good ways that, you know, essentially when you were weak in certain spots because you didn't have time to correct them on the distribution front, that's all we've been focusing on is how do we fix that, and how do we talk to distributors about how to fix these certain topics and areas and points of distribution. And it's just sort of ensuring that, like I said, you're making the most out of the worst situation and grabbing the bull by the horns. And a big part of that was, you know, we didn't really let our team go. And so it was a really good way to be able to have people refocus, redirect, and get good at the stuff they're bad at.
Well, I mean, you really stepped up, you know, in a time where not only your team needed you, but Kansas City needed you most. So I really appreciate, you know, everything you did during that, and it's going to set you up for a lot of success here in 2020.
Knock on wood.
So every week we always ask,
2021.
We always ask about a recent first down, sack, and Hail Mary. I think Lucas threw in a curveball last week and said the sack can't be COVID related. And I know you're a smart guy.
It can't just be COVID in general.
Yes. So I'll make you think critically here. But I guess kind of walk us through that. What does that look like from your end?
Which one first?
First down.
The first down? Well, you know, I actually might say that both the first down and the sack might be the same thing. And they might actually both be this new bill. I mean, this bill has been, it was just passed last night in Congress. You know, this bill has been negotiated for 6-9 months, something of that sort. And what we ended up with was just this trimmed down iteration of just this more or less kick the can down the road type bill, from the business community at least. And it does a lot of great things for unemployment insurance. But from the business side, like I said, it's not going to help anyone really accelerate or grow or survive if they're already going to die. It's just more or less it's just acting as a plug, which in nature probably what it should be to some, but being able to really come out of this even stronger as a community would have been nice to be able to see, and have businesses be able to utilize tools, loan instruments, whatever it might have been, to be able to truly grow. So I would say that it's great that we got something passed, because the biggest thing that was happening also that we were starting to see in small business were businesses weren't making any decisions because they were just waiting for something to come out, because the bill is laced with, and everyone knew they were going to be laced with all of these provisions that it's, if you've done X in the last 6 months, then you can't do Y that's in this bill. And so you could literally shoot yourself in the foot without even thinking that you were shooting yourself in the foot. Instead, you were trying to survive and make the right decisions, and your tactics to survive ended up killing you. So that was a good thing to come out, just to have it definite. It's in place. We now know what to do and what the rules are. And then, you know, the sack, though, like I said, it's the same thing. It's it could have done more. It could have been a little bit more robust and really pushed the growth to come out of this. But I think that we're gonna just really figure this out to the point that everyone utilizes what's in it or not to figure out their path. But I think we're still going to see a lot of businesses struggle. And I think that's the sack element of it, is this isn't going to fix that, and we're going to lose a lot of restaurants, and we're going to lose a lot of small businesses in general, and we're going to have a lot of friends that are out and down on their luck, and it's going to be up to all of us to really pick them up and bring us back to a good economy.
I know that we lost a restaurant near and dear to your heart as well. So, you know, it always sucks to see some of the Kansas City's most historic and cool restaurants lose. But what about
Hail Mary? We skipped that one.
Patrick Mahomes style.
The Hail Mary. Oh man,
it's a big goal for either the next year.
So, you know, I mean, we overall, you know, this is not really I wouldn't call it a Hail Mary, because actually my wife and our entire management team, the one thing they hate about me is that I don't make rash decisions. and I actually think things through and like plan them out accordingly.
Yeah.
But sort of the growth plan that we have for 2021, stuff that overall isn't really public yet, is so aggressive and so contrarian in the way that we're really trying to do things, that we're trying to use this opportunity to be the best we could possibly be.
Yeah.
Sure.
And using COVID as a time, like I said at the beginning, to get everything right that's wrong, figure out what you're going to do when you come out on the other side, practice it now, so that when you truly come out, you've got all these different business lines and even adding additional business lines to it, that you're improved on everything you had existing, you've added more, and then you've even added other features as well. And so really growing the brand and taking the brand to the next level across multiple facets, multiple products, et cetera, is something that we're trying to really get good at. And that's something that 2021 is going to be the kickoff year. And then hopefully 2022 is the year that we have everything figured out that we implemented in 2021. And from there, it's just growth.
Nice. Nice.
Well, I'm excited to see what comes out of that. That sounds really exciting. Props to you guys. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate all the insight there, Andy. You know, you're always one of the go-to leaders here in town for small businesses. So appreciate the insight. So that does it for Talkin' Shop. Let's chop it up. The Chiefs hung on to win a very close game on Sunday. It actually didn't really feel that close. It just turned out pretty close at the end. We had two separate 14-point leads.
It's like every game.
Yeah,
exactly. I know. They're just playing with their food, as Isaac called it. But Andy, we always give our guests the first take each week for each game. Tribute to Andy Reid. So with that, time's yours.
Oh, man. From the Chiefs game this past week, I would ultimately say that the biggest thing that I've been talking about recently is just how much money we have in Frank Clark.
Yeah.
And it's just so disappointing.
We just made the Pro Bowl.
I looked at the list and I was like, what?
I have no idea how. I mean, it's got to be a fan voting thing. And I didn't look up how they were voted, but when I saw that, it was just such a joke.
Yeah.
You know, you want Frank Clark to be the best, and one of the best things I heard over the last month was on sports radio driving to work one morning, and they said, look, at the end of the day, he's done with the regular season. Like, he's not going to be... He's a failure in the regular season. His whole entire year is purely going to be defined by the playoffs.
Right.
So for that guy, don't act like even if he plays well the last few weeks of the season that you're going to change your mind. It's what is he going to do come playoff time?
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, but just seeing how much money we pay the guy, and you think about what you could buy with that as the team and have to surround people with, you know, offensive linemen or linebacker, or I mean, I think the secondary is starting to come together, and it's just we can't get any pressure on the quarterback, and it's just frustrating. You see it week in and week out, and that's just something that overall for me is so bothersome. But the other thing is, and again, we just joked about it a second ago, is I don't understand the kill instinct not being there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What happened to just taking a team and just beating them by 30 points and just doing it week in and week out? And this team has that ability.
Yeah.
And to your point, I mean, I hate the comment, play with your food, but it's so true. I mean, it just very rarely this season, other than really that Chargers game and that Raiders game, the Chargers game that the second week of the season, whatever it was, and the Raiders game, did you actually think that you had a chance to lose? Every other game, we've just felt like, God, why is it so close? We're just all over this team. And I just think that, you know, everyone always says, oh, it's just, you know, not showing them too much. BS. You got to get to a point where it's like, no. That's not showing them too much. Like, you just put up 28 unanswered points. Don't tell me you can't keep doing it, running the exact same plays you already did.
And the pessimist in me believes that you can't keep doing that week in and week out and come away with a victory. And so the fact that we've done it all regular season, it scares me for the playoffs to keep.
It was the opposite in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like, don't show them anything in the first half.
Yeah.
Tony Dungy, I was listening to him. He's like, I'm worried about the Chiefs. They just look bored out there, and that's going to come back to bite him. But then I also listened to Patrick Mahomes this morning, and he was saying, he's like, I think we're more battle tested by going through all of this.
Yeah.
We've won every different type of game there is to play in the NFL. And so going into the playoffs, we're even more confident than we were last year. So, you know, I mean, we can sit here and debate all we want, but at the end of the day, it only really matters what's going on in that locker room. And I think the combination of winning the Super Bowl last year and winning all these tough games this year is going to really, you know, propel them into the playoffs. But
Le'Veon Bell, with his mind right, could be a total game changer to this team too. You know, a little bit of you know, everyone getting healthy at the right time, similar to like last playoff run.
Yeah.
And if you can get Le'Veon Bell really comfortable in the Chiefs uniform and bringing a really positive attitude, and Edwards-Helaire comes back after the first round bye, and you got two running backs that are very, very hot.
Right. I mean, you never want to see someone get hurt, but maybe it's a blessing in disguise where we can actually get him more reps and get him more comfortable with the offense so that we can use him as that piece in the playoffs. And again, everyone I think has been saying that, you don't want to show too much of Le'Veon, but I think that's BS to your point. So, actually, I wanted to touch base on Kelsey's record pace. So he needs 59 yards to break the all-time receiving yard records for tight ends, and then 19 receptions total to break the receptions mark. And now he's second behind DeAndre Hopkins after his monster, 169-yard game. So it should be a tight race coming in with him, Stephon Diggs, and DeAndre Hopkins. But honestly, if we win against the Falcons, we're going to clinch. So we might rest him in Week 17. So I don't know if he'll end up getting that record. But last point is to your point about the defense shoring up. L'Jarius Sneed, that dude looks like an absolute steal. I know he went down with a collarbone injury. He had a sack, interception, and 3 pass breakups in that game. And then Bashaud Breeland also had one of his highest rated games of his career in that. So, where's your confidence level with this defense? I know that the pass rush, but
I mean, I think it all rests on the pass rush and just being able to actually, we know the secondary can play, but secondary can play for 5-6 seconds.
Yeah.
That's not a thing.
Yeah.
Secondary can dominate for the first 3 seconds, and then you start to have those statistics go way down over time.
Right.
Yeah.
But, playing with ideas in my head, I've always been thinking you have such a deep core interior defensive lineman group. I mean, you got 5 guys that, they had to put Kalen Saunders on the inactive list for the game just because they didn't have a roster spot for him at the game. So you think about that, it's not like he did anything wrong. It's just you got 4 guys ahead of him that are just dominating.
Wharton's come out of nowhere. That guy's killing it.
But you got those guys why not try something with Chris Jones as a defensive end?
Yeah.
Right? Put him on the outside. He's fast. Put Kalen Saunders as a defensive end and then have 3 guys you're rotating in the middle and every now and then throw Frank Clark and Passanio on there, on guaranteed rushing plays. But, if you could lock that up where those guys are always just collapsing the pocket pretty fast, then you're guaranteeing you're going to be around that 3-second mark for the quarterback. But they also block and stuff the run a lot better that way.
Sure.
It's been interesting. I can't tell you the last Chiefs season I remember where we haven't had a dominant pass rush. It's we've had Tom Ali, Justin Houston. We've been blessed, and Derek Thomas, and blessed with pass rushers in this franchise's history. It's just weird to see us not get it to the quarterback. And I don't know if that's them not feeding off the crowd, like Arrowhead, and them getting pumped up and doing that as a defense or what it is. But it's just kind of weird to see, honestly.
Yeah. I honestly, even when we got Frank Clark, I think a lot of his sack, I was always hesitant about him because a lot of his sacks were effort plays, and no one can question his effort. But a lot of them have been on the quarterback rolling out of the pocket or something like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, he falls on his face, gets up, and sacks the shots.
I don't know if he's a solution long term. I question.
Yeah, at that price tag.
I don't know what his long term opt out is though.
Yeah.
Or what our long term opt out is though.
Yeah.
He's ultimately that guy that. Does he get his pressures because Chris Jones has been doing so well, and then this year Chris Jones is getting double teamed, and so he's just one-on-one, and your blitz packages aren't working right. And I think they should play Willie Gay more.
Dude, I know. I honestly don't know how Ben Neiman and Nick Keiser are still employed by Clark Hunt right now. Ben Neiman comes in on 3rd down, and it seems like he's always giving that play up for that first down. And you're like, why is this dude still out here? Willie Gay, in the short amount of snaps he's playing, is one of the best rookie linebackers in the league. And I don't know if we're saving him for the playoffs or what it is either, but I think, it's hard to get Spags' defense as a rookie, but we got to give him some more playing time.
I see a lot of Derek Johnson in Willie Gay.
Yeah.
I just see Willie Gay being so. There was a punt play yesterday or Sunday. Today's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Where there's punt coverage, and there was someone on the Chiefs that ran right out of the middle to go after the punt returner, and it was the first person there. The corners weren't the first people there, and the guy was Willie Gay.
Yeah.
And it was this just lightning bolt coming down, and I forget if he made the tackle, but I was just so impressed at how fast this massive body was.
Yeah.
And Derek Johnson was that way in his youth. Derek Johnson was so fast.
Yeah.
And Derek Johnson had a signature move. I'll never forget where he would he was so much faster than everybody. He would grab their jersey and he would come up and then come down on the ball a couple of times and come up a couple of times. And then if that failed, he would tackle him.
Yeah.
And, every now and then he would get a fumble because of it.
Right.
But because he was that fast, he could really accelerate and do that. And so I wonder if they might want to look at putting Willie Gay in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, he ran like a linebacker, and as a linebacker, ran a running back's 40. He was like one of the most athletic guys coming out, and he clocked his starting quarterback. So I'm lucky he fell to us.
Powerful punch.
Yeah. But so to transition into fantasy, sounds like your team didn't do too well this year.
Oh man, I got the wonderful injury bug. As I was saying before the show, my team was always the team that was projected to just dominate every single week, and then it would just be the ultimate failure. I had my second pick overall was Julio Jones. And,
overall? Dang.
No.
Oh, your second round pick. Okay, gotcha.
My second pick.
Yeah.
My first pick was Devontae Adams, and so that
There you
worked
go.
out great. But Julio Jones just,
Yeah.
I don't even, maybe he played a couple games this year, it feels like. And then the games that he was like slated to play, he would be a scratch at like the last minute. So, of course, you'd lose a roster spot, and you're just like, awesome.
Yeah. Calvin Ridley came out and had a hell of a year this year, which we'll get into here shortly. But I know you don't play my teams. I made the championship in one of my leagues, and then the one I managed for a friend, I ended up in the championship as well. So
What's your cut?
I don't get one, but I don't know. I just enjoy fantasy, so it's not a big deal. But to go into Week 16 preview, I'll tell you about it at the end. But Week 16 preview against the Falcons coming to town. They just lost another hilarious game. Gave up a huge lead to Tom Brady, just in a different uniform. It seems like it's like their 8th 20-point blowout loss this year. It's crazy, but they can score points. Like their offense is good. It's just their defense can't stop anyone. So, what are your thoughts for this game coming up?
You saw Pittsburgh lose last night. And so you're pretty much set up to win. I don't know if actually we can lose to Pittsburgh. I think the only team we can lose to, I could be wrong. I feel like the only team we can lose to is Buffalo. If we lose everything and they win everything, then I think they would win the tiebreaker.
Yeah, and there's a couple other things that have to happen too, because we have the head-to-head.
They're undefeated in their division, and we would have, if we lose all of our games, we'd have 2 losses. But regardless, I'm just afraid of the trap a little bit. And, I don't think we talked earlier about the home field. You talked about the 8-0 record, home and away doesn't really matter this season. I feel always nice to sleep in your own bed, but your one loss is at home. So it's not like it truly does matter. I hate to say it. I think it's all going to come down to, you just talked about their offense can score points. It's all going to come down to getting to the quarterback. And are you able to get to the quarterback? And unfortunately, that's going to be the theme for the entire rest of the season throughout the playoffs is, are you giving the quarterback 4 seconds on average to get rid of the ball, or are you giving him 2 seconds to get rid of the ball?
Yeah. And I don't think it's going to come back and bite us when we play a Matt Ryan. But if we're going to play a Baker Mayfield, or if we're going to play Lamar Jackson, you're going to have to get to the quarterback. And all these young guys that are coming up in the AFC, it's going to be a tough one this playoff run. But so you want to read Lucas's keys of victory?
So I think the most important one here, we could lose the next 2 games, as long as we stay healthy and Patrick Mahomes stays healthy, I think that's a victory in and of itself. So one, I think stay healthy.
And Le'Veon Bell.
Yes, just everyone as a whole stay healthy. Tyreek, which did you see everyone was saying the tequila shots. I think it was pickle juice, but so stay healthy. And I think part of that is to throw early and often. I think, which I was looking it up, but Atlanta has one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. I think aside from maybe Seattle is the only other one worse than them.
That usually doesn't work out well for other teams.
Yeah, so get up early and then pull Mahomes at half. Get a comfortable lead and just kind of ride that out. I know a lot of people kind of debate whether or not to pull quarterback.
What does that do to the momentum, though? Because then you're talking about not having him play the last week of the season. Then he has a bye. And then you're coming in.
Remember that happened to Lamar Jackson last year. He came out and played real cold when he came back because he was rested for 2 straight weeks.
And I think maybe let him play a half of Chargers.
Yeah.
Let him play another half there just so he's not completely cold. But I think as long as he's healthy, he's going to play all right. And so that would be one. And then the other is, I think Atlanta's 27th in rushing offense. And so I think that's one of our strengths is the rushing defense, or it has been late. And so as long as we can control those aspects of the game, I think we'll have a pretty good shot of coming out with the victory.
To your point, I mean, that might be why our rush defense is struggling right now, or our pass rush defense is struggling because our rush defense is actually showing up pretty well. Like, I know Kamara is going to make a couple plays here or there, but I feel like we limited him pretty well.
I think we held him to under 100 yards.
Yeah.
It was like 60 or something, I think. So,
yeah. I mean, that guy's a beast. But, yeah, going into score predictions last week, I think Lucas is closest with 31-24. Or no, Isaac was with 35-31. Our guests are just kicking our tails this year, and I'm so bad at guessing. I'm at 226. Lucas is 186, and then guests are 167. So, Andy, you'll round people out here, but what is your score prediction?
Say they get back in the swing of things offensively. Let's go 38-17.
38-17.
That was my prediction.
It's okay. It's good.
You can stick with it if you want.
Yeah, I'll stick with it. I think we're going to come out and win dominantly. I don't think we're going to, I'll say it again, play with our food. I think this will be a pretty decisive victory. So
yeah, I'm gonna go 35-24. Again, I think they'll put up some points, but we'll still cover. It's the line's 10.5 right now on a Tuesday morning, and over/under's 53.5, which I think could smack. But Andy, any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
This is obviously not taped and then released, 4 weeks down the road like we do with our show sometimes. So let's make sure we get it out, get it published, and go Chiefs.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for Week 16 of Talkin' Shop. Whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, make sure to follow us on for the remainder of the season with some of Kansas City's top execs and personalities like Andy. Andy, again, thanks so much for making some time and being with us here in the Let It Fly studio. But we'll catch you all next week. And as always, go Chiefs.
Make sure to drink Rieger booze during the holidays.
There we go.